Mr. Chancellor, it is my honor to present to you Mr. Robert Briscoe, entrepreneur and philanthropist. While working full-time straight out of high school, then raising a young family, Mr. Briscoe took night classes for 6 years at Sir George Williams University, today Concordia's downtown campus. After earning his BSc, his passion to become a research chemist morphed into a desire to lead. He decided to return for 6 more years of night classes as part of Sir George's first ever MBA cohort. After graduating, Mr. Briscoe stuck to what he knew best, food chemistry, and soon emerged as a shrewd investor and entrepreneur with leadership talent. His 40-year career has been success upon success. Among others, he was president for 3 decades of Macco Organiques, a food and pharmaceutical company. He founded Alim Plus Inc., a food distribution service he ran for 24 years, and he is now owner of Dube Loiselle Inc., a food distributor. Mr. Briscoe believes strongly in reinvesting, which he has done in several ways. While still an undergraduate, he got his professional start at l'Allemand and never forgot it, going on to serve as non-executive chairman for 42 years. Il a été membre de nombreux conseils d'administration ainsi que président de la Chambre de commerce du Canada en 2001 et 2002. Monsieur Briscoe a, en outre, réinvesti dans son alma mater. En plus de financer des bourses d'études, sa conjointe et lui ont fondé en 2015 le centre d'études Bob et Raye Briscoe en propriété d'entreprise à l'école de gestion John Molson. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of Senate and the Board of Governors, it is my privilege and honor to present to you Mr. Robert Briscoe so that you may confer upon him the degree of Doctor of Laws honoris causa.
I would like to ask Dr. Robert Briscoe to address the convocation.
Mr. Chancellor, Jonathan Wiener, Mr. President and Vice Chancellor, Alan Shepard, John Molson School of Business Dean, Anne-Marie Cloteau, honored platform guests, graduates, families and friends, thank you for this great honor. I'll preface this address by saying that there's a little bit of repetition from the introduction, but I'm not going to change it. Given this time to address the graduates of the John Molson School of Business, I hope you find, in my experience, advice that will help you succeed in your careers. Firstly, I can tell you that, while it may help, you don't have to start rich. My father, a World War I veteran and house painter, went through the Great Depression. He had a very negative outlook on life. He was an ardent socialist, so as a teenager, I read the Communist Manifesto and the theory and practice of socialism. I think you know the theory. From each, according to his means or ability, to each according to his need. None of my 4 siblings got past grade school, but as the youngest, I was allowed to complete high school. My parents didn't know I was given homework, so I never did homework. I was a bad student. Having graduated from high school, I had no role model, no dreams, no objectives. My closest friends joined the Navy or went to work with no further schooling. I had no idea where I would end up. I knew I didn't like physical labor because I'd done a little of that. Science came easily to me. and I noticed frequent offers for chemists on the employment page. With no money for full-time university, I decided to look for a job as a lab technician and enroll in evening classes at Sir George Williams University. At that time, Sir George was the only university offering a chemistry degree in part-time studies. My parents were quite distressed during the 3 months it took me to get a technician's job in a lab. My first course at Sir George Williams was English 211, and my girlfriend Raye typed my papers. Several months later, still in our teens, we married. Nobody believed it would work, but I'm proud to say we're still happily married. With a year's experience and family responsibilities, I asked for a raise. My boss said, "We pay you for what you do, not for what you need." A lesson well learned. Shortly after, I changed jobs for a higher salary. After 6 years of evening classes, I completed my 4-year Bachelor of Science degree. By that time, I had realized that managers are paid a lot more than chemists, and decided that management was a better future than the chemistry lab. In 1969, while I was plant manager of L'Allema's Baker's Yeast Factory, I was lucky to win admission to the very first MBA class here at Concordia, Sir George at that time. As I studied for my MBA and worked, I gained enormous respect for the company owner, Roland Chagnon. He was a chartered accountant and was determined to succeed as a business owner. His attitude rubbed off on me. I decided that I didn't want to be a manager. I wanted to be a business owner like him. In 1972, he promoted me to general manager with a promise that he would sell me shares in the company. It wasn't until 3 years later that the paperwork was completed, I was appointed president, borrowed the money from the bank, and finally became a shareholder. Over that period, I had nothing in writing, never consulted a lawyer, accountant, or advisor. To say I was naive would be an understatement, but I trusted my mentor, Mr. Chagnon. By 1980, my shares had gained substantial value, and with a desire to be a majority owner, I started looking for an acquisition. I made a list of my criteria and was fortunate to find a cheese factory for sale. It took months of negotiations with the seller and the lenders to finally realize my goal in 1981. Unfortunately, that year the prime lending rate went to 22%. We don't know that now. With huge debt, it was a struggle to survive, so we tightened our belts. One of the most important lessons I retained from my MBA was about interest and the time preference of money by Calvin Potter, who was the finance professor. Essentially, he said that if you are not prepared to defer consumption and save, you will never accumulate wealth. To survive, my wife did the bookkeeping with the help of our children, and we managed the business on a shoestring. 6 years later, we got an attractive offer and sold the company. I have made numerous acquisitions since then and become somewhat of a serial entrepreneur, as Alexandra mentioned in the introduction. It gives me enormous satisfaction to take a business, identify its key strategies for success, grow it responsibly, and create satisfying jobs and careers. I have found that with the right team, business is fun. With the wrong people, it is hell. Most importantly, when successful, local ownership creates benefits not only for the employees, but for our whole society by using professionals and suppliers, and thus creating wealth that fuels the social programs we so value. During my MBA studies, I noticed that none of my classmates aspired to be business owners. They were primarily seeking careers and promotions within larger organizations. Recently, I decided that I wanted to encourage commerce students to look at the rewards, both financial and personal, of owning a business. Taking that risk is the ultimate test in management. But if you succeed, it is also the most satisfying. I am not talking about inventing a new gadget or app, which is a small percentage of new business ownership. What I mean is acquiring existing run-of-the-mill businesses and growing them. In appreciation to Concordia, I'm funding the Bob and Raye Briscoe Business Ownership Program here at the John Molson School of Business. I feel it is a perfect fit for Concordia. Many great entrepreneurs were highly motivated individuals that didn't start rich. So as you graduate, I hope you consider eventually owning your own business. I would like the John Molson School of Business to be known not only for creating great business leaders, but for creating a culture of business ownership. Congratulations, graduates.
Dr. Briscoe, thank you for your illuminating remarks, and thank you for sharing your history, your knowledge, and your dedication to our university. We very much appreciate it. Thank you.